Welcome back, guys. The fourth, is it the fourth? I think it's the fourth and final part of the GSXR750SP, that's a mouthful, series of videos. So we road tested it in the last episode. It's a couple of days later now. I want to do a compression test. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. If you haven't watched the other parts, go and watch those, because if you've happened upon this episode, you're missing 90% of your information. And this is just a continuation of the same job. I'm going to, you know, the issues we had with cylinder number 2, the rusty cylinder. I'm going to do a compression test and borescope it again. I'm hoping the compression test after the road test, and you know, we've got all the schmoo out of it, all the oil and stuff we introduced to the cylinder when we started turning it over the first time. I'm hoping the compression is going to be good and even across all 4 cylinders. I'll borescope number 2 again and just have a look at that rusty patch, just out of interest. Then I'm going to get the cam cover off. We've talked about it, haven't we? I know I've got a new cam cover gasket here. We're going to do the valve clearances. I'm going to that cover on the end of the crankshaft that we removed to turn the engine. I've got a new gasket for that. You already know about that. That cover just got bolted back on for the road test. Didn't put any silicone on it, didn't do anything. I just bolted it on and it's actually managed to stay dry, which is quite surprising. Or not. Let me get the seat unit off and the tank. Let's compression test it first. Then we'll go from there. Valve clearances. The other things that are going to happen in this episode, which I'm not completely certain I'm going to share. The calipers need to be rebuilt. They're fine, they're a little bit bindy, they just need a freshen up. So a stripper clean, some new seals, rebuild them, new pads, fresh brake fluid obviously. So give the brakes a birthday party, and then just put the bodywork on it and MOT it, and then ride it again once it's all back together. Right, let's do work. Tank's off, seat's off. I've got the coils disconnected on the primary side, just so we don't have any sparkage going on. Spilt a little bit of fuel taking the tank off, and we don't want to stress the ignition coils. We've talked about that before, haven't we? Right, so number 1 cylinder. If I put that out like that, can you see that okay? Like that, maybe focus you there. Okay, so full throttle. For volumetric efficiency reasons. What's it going to top out at? Fucking hell, knocking on the door of 200 psi, okay. Number 2 then, which is the bad one. I say number 2, which is the bad one. That's not strictly true, is it? Number 2, which is the one that's got the rusty mark on the cylinder wall. Let's see what the compression's like on that one. And then when we've compression tested all of them, I'll get the borescope in there, like I said. Okay, so this is a telling moment. Full throttle again. Yeah, exactly the fucking same, give or take, 200 psi. That's good, because there isn't any oil in there now or anything that's going to sway the reading in any way. You know, if it had some ring sealing issues, it's not full of that 2-stroke oil fuel mix that I had down in there. So that's and it's cold as well, the engine. We'll find now that fucking one of the ones we didn't think was going to give a problem is going to give a problem, but hopefully not. Right, contact. You can immediately tell, can't you, when you... Oh, was that even in shot when I was doing it? Fuck. I think it was. If it wasn't, it's the same as the others. Stupid trousers here isn't looking at the camera monitor as I'm doing it. yeah, what was I saying? You can immediately see, can't you, how the gauge starts to move, that it's going to be okay. All right, number 4. Well, that is fucking awesome news. Okay, so the next thing is, let's get that little side cover off the end of the crankshaft so we can turn it by hand with a socket or a spanner. Let's get the Borescope in the number 2 and have a quick look at that cylinder wall again. I'm just curious as to what it looks like now it's been run a little bit, and then we'll get the cam cover off and check the valve clearances. So as I said, we're gonna have a look with the Borescope in a second, just before we do the valve clearances. I think, and you may have noticed in a previous video, but see that cam cover gasket, that's got some sort of non-genuine sealer on it, hasn't it? So I think the cam cover's been off at some point and it's had its valve clearances done, and it hasn't done, how many miles has it done? I can't remember now. Done 17,000, so that would probably figure. There's no way one of these engines is going more than, I don't know, what was the service schedule? Was it 8,000 mile for valve clearances on one of these, or was it every service? Can't remember now, I'd have to check. But yeah, it's clearly that cover's been off before. Right, let's go and get my Borescope and we'll have a look inside. Bit of Borescopage down number 2. Let's have a look at this rusty mark that I think is probably, I need to record this, don't I? How do I do that? I can never remember like that. I think it's probably rusty staining, and that sort of thing always looks worse on camera, doesn't it? Where's the piston? Is that quite, oh, it's quite a long way down, so we can get a, yeah, there it is, look, is that it? Yeah, I think that's it, is it? It looks smaller than before. Or is that the other? Were there 2 spots in there? Crikey, I can't remember now. Yeah, it's there, look. God, it does look bad on camera, doesn't it? I wish I could get Mark Ball. Mark Ball? Who the fuck is Mark Ball? I wish I could get Mark 1 eyeball on it and have a really good look. I know I've got a friend that works in the aircraft industry, and he's a Borescope guy for jet engines. He's telling me about his 360 articulating Borescopes, and they can literally measure almost down to a micron the depth of something, you know? It'd be so cool to be able to literally see. The scope won't focus that closely, unfortunately. Anyway, it runs lovely. It's got great compression. It doesn't appear to be burning any oil. I mean, that's all we can do, isn't it? I'd love to get the head off it and, yeah, like I said, Mark 1 eyeball that cylinder and maybe hone it and put rings in it, etc. But we don't need to. We're not gaining anything by doing that. So, shall we have a look in the others? Might as well have a look in number 3, because we know that the piston is halfway down the bore, and I can get at it easy. Look at valve seats there too, look. Lights maybe a bit bright. Can I turn the light down? Problem is then the camera exposes, doesn't it? From what I can see of those valve faces, they look okay. No, that's dark. I mean, it looks lovely, doesn't it? Right, that's, what's that? Is that a scuffy mark on the cylinder wall? Anyway, I'm not overthinking this because it's got good compression, it doesn't burn oil, it runs lovely. Let's call it fine, which it is. Let's get the cam cover off next. Speak properly, Jim. Let's get the cam cover off next and check the valve clearances. Let's start by getting this bad boy off here so we can turn the engine by hand. These bolts aren't standard, are they? I don't think. They are aluminium, I think. Or are they titanium or something flash and they are standard? I don't know, somebody will tell me in the comments, I'm sure. Okay, put some gloves on because it's going to get oily. I feel like I want to, I think this is probably the easiest way. I want to get these cable ties, these HT leads out of my way. Just cable tie them up like that, I think. There we go. Keep you up out of the way. Get rid of that pipe. Make sure that clip is well down on that pipe because we don't want that coming off and disappearing inside the engine. Right, first things first, let's get, in fact I don't think that, no, that cover doesn't need to come off, does it? Allen keyage. You're kind of in the way, so there are, as well as the cam cover gasket and the little spark plug tunnel gaskets, there are O-rings on, there's two little oil pipes coming up that feed the cylinder head, one here, one here. There's O-rings on those, need to be replaced, and there's 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got little, they're not copper, they're like soft aluminium washers on, they need to be replaced as well, and I haven't got them, I forgot to order them, so I've ordered those now and they're in stock because all the oil-cooled GSXR engines are the same, so they're 10 a penny, these things, so they'll be here tomorrow. Let's get a little bit of tissue because they like to piss oil out and it runs down the back of the engine, so put some rag under there. I've done obviously none of these in the past, and I never really did that many like GSXR 1100s, but fucking lost count of the number of bandits I've done valve clearance services on. Why does that feel? It's fine, it's just I was expecting it to be more. Oh, I see, it's a solid line and it's connected to the other one, so if I loosen the other one there'll be a bit more give in it. Vacuum pipe, and the single throttle cable can just stay. Let's tuck you down there. Fucking hell, what was that just fell out then? Did you hear that? What on earth was that? Oh, it's a fucking hell. This is the danger, isn't it? You've got to make sure that you don't leave clips on. Where's the vacuum pipe? There, and the clip is all the way down there. I told you the story, didn't I, of the clip on a vacuum pipe? I'm sure I did. On a, not on a vacuum pipe, on a crankcase breather. For those of you that haven't heard the story, so I was working for a Suzuki dealer back in the, it would have been the late 90s, so 99 it would have been probably, because the first model Hayabusa had come out and we were a big Suzuki dealer. There was a recall on the cam chain tensioner on the first model Hayabusa, and it involved taking the cam cover off. What was there? Was there a, I think there was another, there was either another tensioner blade or a guide or something. Anyway, the cam cover had to come off, and it had a new cam chain tensioner, and it had a hydraulic line from the oil gallery at the front of the engine round the side of the engine to the back of the, basically it added hydraulic assist to the cam chain tensioner. And we were a big Suzuki dealer, so we were doing fucking loads of these recalls, and I got pretty swift at doing them and always seemed to get the short straw, so I did loads of them. Anyway, I got to the point where, let me get another bit of rag, sorry. We got to the point where I was doing them in my fucking sleep, and there's the O-ring, don't fall out. Sorry, I will continue with my story in a second. I need to fuck this O-ring off out of here because I don't want it dropping inside the engine. Hang on. Get some spiky Stanley knife blade will do. Anyway, Jim, back to the story. Fucking focus. So I was doing these cam chain tensioner recalls in my fucking sleep. Anyway, I'd done this particular day, and that's quite floppy now, isn't it? I'd done this particular day, put it all back together, and on the crankcase breather pipe, like this one, the little wire clip that goes to the back of goes up onto the airbox, the wire clip was missing. I was like, where the fuck's that got to? And I had it all back together, and I had the clutch pulled in, I had the ignition on, and I had my thumb on the start button ready to start this engine. And something, my spider senses, whatever it was, said, fucking hell, just check down the inlet manifold, Jim. I'm sure it isn't, you know, it hasn't dropped down inside, but anyway, you know what's coming next, right? I took the airbox back off, and I opened the throttle bodies, and I looked down with a torch, and the fucking little wire clip was sat on top of one of the inlet valves. Yes, a little bit of poo came out that day. That would have been a bad day, and would have taken some explaining. Anyway, let me stop waffling and focus on what I'm fucking doing and get this cam cover off. Let me just show you these bolts. So I've got rid of those two O-rings because I don't want them falling in the engine. And then on these bolts, these are like, you'll see in the cam cover, when the cam cover comes off, it's not going to focus, is it? It will if I do that. Yeah, they've got a little washer on them that you've got to replace. We haven't got to, but good practice to replace. Let me finish getting this apart, and I'll bring you in when we're doing the valve clearances. And let's see how out they are, if at all. Right, catch you in a bit. Okay, so I've got all the bolts out. Tell me, they're never fucking genuine, are they? Let me focus on there. Got like a little plastic washer under them. They got to be aftermarket. There's no way they're Suzuki. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Anyway, focus back there, please. Tap it, tap it. Nice and fucking gently. I don't want to mark the paint. What I might do is rest a little bit of wood on that Allen bolt there, like that. It's coming. There we go. Okay. Gonna stay there, gasket, or are you coming with the cover? Okay. Yeah, with some of the, with the early 1200 Bandit, especially the S model, why am I telling you this? You have to remove this little breather cover anyway. Nice and clean in there. Okay, get rid of that gasket and that gasket. Are the dowels on there? I honestly can't remember. Are the dowels negative? When I say are the dowels on often, you know what I mean? On there, there's dowels, but there aren't. That's where those oil bolts pass through. You can see, crikey, do you want to get into this? I'm not even sure how in focus this is, but there we go, focus on there. So these are the oil holes where the two pipes come in, and you can see the oil passageway in the casting, can't you? And then, where are they? They're on the bench here behind me. These are the bolts with those little aluminium washers. They go through here. It's like a little banjo bolt, and then that feeds oil down into the cylinder head. Understandez-vous? Okay, what are the specs? What were the bandits I used to know off the top of my head? 4 to 7 inlet, 7 to 9 exhaust. Is that right for a bandit? I can't remember. That sounds right. These are probably not that. Let me go and find the spec. I've got down here. Can you see down there? So I've got the cover off, so I can turn it by hand. Get some feeler gauges. Let's find the spec. Let's do some measuring. And while I'm here, let me just show you in here. You may not be aware, but they're not shimmed, these valve clearances. They're lock nut and adjuster. So all these oil-cooled GSXR engines from this era were all got the little Suzuki tool, which is a little square drive thing, and you use a spanner. So you literally turn it, put the cam in the right place, and you use undo the lock nut and then tighten the lock nut back up, get the clearance correct, so there's no shim changing or anything. It's one of the reasons why these engines have that sort of slightly mechanical cam chainy kind of noise, because there's all this valve gear in here. There is a fucking lot of moving parts to that, as you can see. Right, wafflage, let me go and find out what the spec is, and we'll start doing some adjusting. So I'm just trying to confirm exactly what the valve clearance spec should be. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but these had some differences in the cylinder head, I'm pretty sure. Different valves, different valve springs, etc., because it's the SP. And I'm getting conflicting information, so I'll flash it on the screen. So my list says what I thought it was going to say, which is 0.10 to 0.15, which is 4 to 6 thou, and then 0.18 to 0.23, which is 7 to 9 thou, isn't it? So that's what I thought it was going to be, but then I found the manual, the Suzuki manual for the K model, what I think is the K model, and that says inlet and exhaust 4 to 6 thou. I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to measure and see what they are to start with, and let's go from there. So first things third, let's just start over at number one cylinder. You've got to be careful to not twat the pickup with a spanner on these. Ask me how I know. Not this particular bike, but anyway, that's a story for another day. Let's get inlet number 1, cam in the right position. Let's find some gloves. Crank in the right position, cam in the right position rather. That's the Suzuki tool, which has got a little square drive which fits on the little adjuster like that, and then you have an 8mm spanner for the lock nut and feeler gauges obviously. Right, so inlet, what was it? 4 to 6. Let's find a 4 thou feeler gauge. Yeah, nice little bit of drag there. I'm just going to go around and check them first. What I used to do back in the day when I was doing these, because there was a lot of these to be in, that one's loose, so they're different, although they should be the same. What was I saying? Used to do a lot of these engines, like 1200 Bandits and stuff back when they were new, servicing them. I wouldn't even bother, what am I trying to say, getting a feeler gauge in like this, getting it to a point where you just saw me struggle slightly then, getting it to a point where you could just feel the right amount of drag. I used to just not even bother checking them. I used to just do them all again. So I would, well, I'll just show you with this number 1, because this is actually out. So loosen the lock nut. Not quite tight enough in my opinion, that lock nut, but that's a whole nother debate. And then what I used to do is just get the feeler gauge and walk the nut down, walk the adjuster down, just to a point where you could feel it touch down onto the feeler gauge, rather than sort of drag just without, God, I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this, am I? Rather than trying to decide whether dragging that feeler gauge through that, you know, like that's quite tight actually, that one, but you could argue, oh, there's a nice drag on that feeler gauge, that's likely too tight. So I would always just loosen them all off and just go round them all. And just so that one's loose, I'll tighten this down So it's just touching onto the feeler gauge, and then you leave the feeler gauge resting in there, and then when you tighten the lock nut up, you got to hold. It's a bit like doing a chain adjuster bolt back up, isn't it? You've got to hold it with a spanner to stop it turning, like that, and then recheck. And what you'll find is when you do that lock nut up, it backs. Obviously there's a clearance in the thread, right? As you do that lock nut up, it pulls, it slackens the clearance ever so slightly, but that's absolutely spot on. And what you'll find is if you've got feeler gauges in 1 thou increments, you try and get the next size up and it's tighter. Anyway, that's, I'm going to check them all first because I haven't got to the bottom of what the clearances should actually be, so I'm interested to see how they've previously been set. I was just doing that, adjusting that one just to give you a, you know what I'm saying? Fucking hell, Jim, stop talking and work. I'm going to go around these, see what clearances I get, write them down. Let's have another conversation. So I've been round every single one. I'll get you an example. So most of the inlets measure between 6 and 8 thou. So a 6 thou feeler gauge. Let me show you. I've also gone and got, we talked about this before, right? These are in metric feeler gauges normally are in, for example, they'll go, fucking hell, and they're upside down, so you're not going to be able to read the numbers, but they'll go, look, 0.20, 0.25, 0.3, 0.35, that's in 2 thou increments, right? So 0.05 of a millimetre is 2 thou. Actually, it isn't exactly 2 thou, but give or take, for these purposes it is. Whereas these are, well, these are metric and imperial. Yeah, I've cut some of these down, don't ask. But they go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they go in, if you look at the metric size, like that one's, the 6 is 0.15, and then the 7 thou is 0.18, and then the 8 thou is 0.20, which, you see what I mean? And then that one's 0.23. Am I making any sense? It's good to have, all I'm saying is it's good to have a set of feeler gauges in 1 thou increments, so you can really sort of dial in your clearance. Anyway, what was I saying? For example, on this exhaust, so we were shooting for, what I thought we were shooting for was 7 to 9 thou, and we're getting exactly that. So if I go put 7 thou in, 7 thou goes in, we're seeing that. There's a tiny bit of resistance, but it's quite slack. And I know I'm going against what I previously said about just adjust them all, but I've just been round them. That's an 8. And this is the beauty of having 1 thou increment feeler gauges. You can sneak up on the clearance, so that's getting tighter now. And then the 9 thou, which is that one, which is 0.23. That's, yeah, that's, there's a good bit of resistance there. And then the 10 thou won't go in. 10 thou is too tight. Anyway, I've been round all of them. That's the 10. Gotta force it in and it's properly tight. I've been round all of them, and they're all, the inlets, a couple of little exceptions which I've just tweaked along the way. They were all a slack, a sort of slack 4, knocking on the door of 5 thou, and then getting tight at 6 thou. So they've all been done to within those specs we talked about. So I'm calling that okay. I've also been round, fucking great debate, right? Every single one of these lock nuts I've been round, and just, I think I've got a pretty good feel for this without over tightening them. I know about over tightening things, but I've done them all now, they're not going to move, but I nipped every single one up ever so slightly. I think the person that last did them was obviously paying attention because they got the clearances right, but I think they were a little bit conservative with doing up these lock nuts. You could use a fucking torque wrench, I get it. I'm not doing that. I've been doing this for fucking 30 years, okay? I've done thousands of these engines. Just the right amount of nipness. You know, you wait for your wrist to go click and you know it's the right torque, right? They're all done. Whilst I was researching valve clearances as well, it said in some of the literature I was reading that these cam covers on these SPs were magnesium, but that doesn't seem like it's magnesium to me. That just looks like a normal aluminium cover. But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to give this cover a good clean. Got a new cam cover gasket, got new gaskets for these here. Incidentally, what I do with the gaskets, I'll show you. I'll wash this off. No, I won't show you, I'll just tell you. Little bit of Evo stick, contact adhesive, just a tiny bit to hold the cam cover gasket in. And the same on these. Anyway, waffling. Let's get this cover back on and then do the brakes, because this video is going to go on and on otherwise, and this is definitely the final part. So I want to get the brakes done, fairing on, brake fluid changed, and I want to get riding it with all the bodywork on for the final shakedown. Fucking waffling. Right, I'll catch you in a bit, guys. Caliper update. The front calipers, a little bit minging, but actually not bad at all. In the dust seal groove there's a tiny little bit of shmoo. They just need a bit of a freshen up. Put some new seals in them, wash them down, put some new seals in, fresh fluid, new pads, job's a good one. The rear caliper, I'll flash some video on the screen as it was coming apart, but yeah, they were pretty fucking horrible, to be honest with you. The little dust cover booty thing had popped off and the corrosion's really got in. Little focus on there. Yeah, not great. The pistons, I think, may go again. I'm going to have to clean them and polish them, see what happens. So same story, just a little bit worse with the rear calipers. A good clean. I might even put these in the vapor blaster, clean up the insides. These I won't, they just need washing off a brake cleaner. The front pistons, they're pretty good, I think, from what I can see. They just need a good polish and they'll be fine. The rest of the bike is not back together, but the tank's on, the cam cover's on, etc. Yeah, so that's all done. I've had it running. No leaks, all runs nice still. So that makes me happy. Carry on with the brakes, get those done, get the seat unit on, get the fairing on. May or may not share a little bit of that with you. I don't know how long this video is at this point. Looking forward to riding it as a complete motorbike. That's going to be fun. With the fairing and stuff on it. I'm not going to do loads of miles on it. Not going to go hard on it for obvious reasons. But yeah, I want to have one more ride on it when it's, you know, the real deal, all back together. Right, I'll carry on. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, more updated. It's actually the next day now. It's always the next day, isn't it? Brakes are all back together. They've all been bled. I've talked about this a million times, sure I have, but I'll say it again. Got a Velcro strap around the lever, not for any trying to make the brakes firmer or any of that bullshit because the pistons are seized. Just want to pressurize the system right. It's been sat overnight and you can just go round. If there's any leaking of brake fluid, it will be really obvious. So you just go around, make sure everything's dry. Yeah, and I've moved it now, but I had a strap around there on the rear one, so that's all back together, all bled. Nice firm lever, new pads, etc. Going to bosh the bodywork back on it and the seat unit, and then it's time to go and have a ride. Okay, onwards. Well, this is it. The grand finale. A bit of choke. It is quite warm today, but it hadn't run yet today, so a tiny little bimble, nothing too extreme. Mirrors. We just basically I just wanted to ride it with the which way shall I go? I'll go my normal way, although this lane is fucking falling apart. Yeah, I just wanted to, thought it was appropriate to ride it with the fairing on it. Okay, what's that rear brake like now? Oh, it actually works. Fancy that. Oh, fucking hell, stalled it then. What is happening? What's happening, guys? Too much choke, I think. It's a very, very warm day. Should have probably warmed it up a bit on the yard, shouldn't I? Right, let's try again, shall we? That's better. What was I saying? We have a rear brake. That rear caliper was very, very seized up. Or not very seized up, but that one of the pistons was... It took some getting out. I didn't really show that on camera, did I? I had to use the hydraulic force of the master cylinder to pump the piston out, and it was sort of creaking as it was coming out, which would explain why we didn't have a rear brake last time we rode it. Just so much nicer looking down at those clocks and seeing a fairing. You get on this side in case a car comes around the corner. Yeah, not going to go far. I don't want to fucking expose myself to damaging it in any way. Gives me the heebie-jeebies riding it. Just put my goggles down. Fucking awesome. Feels just lovely to ride. The riding position is very, I don't know if you know, but the riding position is very 1990s. I feel like my hands are quite close to my knees. Foot pegs are quite high. I think if you were, what am I, 5'9"? I think if you were any taller than me, it would be, you'd be quite cramped on this. It feels quite small to ride. Oh, and they finally finished this road. Remember the last road test? Those fucking massive potholes. Well, now look at it. It's like a racetrack. Wants to sort of almost two-strokey the way it wants to rev. I wonder how. I did do some, let me slow down so you can hear me. I did do a little bit of reading about the differences between this and the standard one, and there are some internal engine differences. I think cam timing is slightly different, and fucking hell, was it even a different stroke the crank had? I can't quite remember, but it is quite different. It feels very revvy, you know, it doesn't really do anything. It gets to about 7,000 and it really fucking goes off. Anyway then, I suppose this is the end of this series of videos. We've got the... I'll slow down a bit and then you can hear me. We've got the OW01 next. Saving the best till last. Well, not really. This is more some people's cup of tea than probably the Yamaha or the Honda or the Kawasaki. But the OW01 is particularly beautiful, and that one, as far as I can tell from a bit of research I've done, hasn't been ridden in a very long time. It hasn't had an MOT recently or anything like that, so it might be a little bit more in depth than this one and the Kawasaki we did. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you. Thanks to everybody that's become a patron recently. I fucking love you. I really appreciate you. You're literally what's keeping me making these videos. The Discord is popping off. It's bloody brilliant. There's so many cool people in there. Loads of awesome information changing hands and stuff. I don't always get involved in the conversations, but I do sort of when I'm having a shit, I'll read through Discord, and the conversations are bloody awesome. Anyway, appreciate all of you. Thanks guys, and I'll see you on the next one, whatever that is. I think it's probably the first episode of the I can't speak, the OW01. Thanks guys, love you all.